The morning sun draped Windermere in a golden haze, filtering through ancient oaks along Alderwood Lane. The neighborhood, postcard of manicured lawns and pristine driveways, hummed with a deceptive silence laced with invisible borders. Sprinklers ticked rhythmically, gardeners swept, and joggers, mostly older and white, nodded to neighbors they'd known for decades. But today, the air sharpened as Raven Porter stepped out of her brick two-story home, her German shepherd, Brutus, at her heel. Raven, a black woman with the disciplined posture of a Navy SEAL, wore a navy blazer over an athletic tee, black slacks, and gleaming white sneakers. Her walk was deliberate, her spine a steel rod forged by years of military service and quiet defiance. Brutus, harnessed and alert, matched her stride, his nose twitching at the morning scents. Across the street, Mrs. Parsons, a white woman in a sun visor, froze mid-watering, her gaze narrowing. Next door, Mr. Lee, one of the few people of color in the HOA, raised a hesitant hand before his wife pulled him inside. A group of neighbors, coffee cups in hand, fell silent as Raven passed. She nodded, her smile calm but guarded. Most looked away. Some stared, their eyes dissecting her like a specimen. Raven had paid the same price for her house as they had, but the rules spoken and unspoken were never equal. She turned the corner, letting Brutus sniff the curb, when a low rumble broke the stillness. A police cruiser idling at the block's end. Officer Dale Higgins, a barrel-chested man in mirrored sunglasses, leaned out the window, his gaze locking onto Raven like a predator's. Higgins was a Windermere fixture, his patrol car a constant on these leafy streets. To him, trouble meant anyone who looked like Raven. As she approached, the engine cut off. Higgins stepped out, his duty belt jangling with unearned authority. On the opposite sidewalk, neighbors paused, one raising a phone not to call for help, but to film. Higgins sauntered into Raven's path, his eyes raking over her. Then Brutus. "Morning," he called, voice booming for the audience. "You live around here?" Raven's jaw tightened, but her smile held. "Yes, officer, just over there," she said, nodding toward her house. Higgins squinted, lips twitching. "Mind telling me your name? Gut ID?" The question was a ritual, one Raven had endured, at parks, stores, even her own mailbox. She pulled out her wallet, slow and deliberate, holding her ID out. Raven Porter, 314, Alderwood. Higgins barely glanced at it. "Had a call about someone suspicious," he said, words crisp for the growing crowd. "A woman with a big dog. Looks out of place. Safety, you know." Raven's smile faltered. "I've walked this route every morning for 3 years." He shrugged, leaning closer. "Neighborhood's changing. Folks get nervous. Hope you understand." Mrs. Parsons now openly stared, phone in hand. The coffee group edged closer, their faces hungry for drama. Raven straightened, meeting Higgins' gaze. "I understand my rights. I live here. I don't need to explain myself." Higgins' smile froze, his hand dropping to the leash clipped to his belt, connected to his K9 in the cruiser. "Just doing my job, Miss Porter," he said, tapping his radio. "Dispatch. Possible situation on Alderwood. Tall, black female, navy blazer, German shepherd. Requesting backup." The crowd shifted, phones multiplying. Raven felt Brutus press against her leg, sensing the tension. She scanned the faces around her, discomfort, curiosity, but no one willing to intervene. Higgins' voice rose again. "You're free to go for now, but folks here, pay attention. Don't give them a reason to call me again." He shot her a final warning look. "Hope you know how to listen." Raven walked on, heart pounding, the crowd's eyes trailing her. The sun warmed her face, but it felt like walking through shattered glass. In Windermere, belonging was a privilege, not a right. And for Raven Porter, Navy SEAL, homeowner, outsider, the fight was just beginning. The encounter with Higgins clung to Raven like smoke. She continued her walk, Brutus' nails clicking on the sidewalk, her stride unhurried but defiant. Behind her, Higgins' boots echoed, deliberate and heavy. A second cruiser pulled ahead, lights flashing, blocking the path. Officer Mike Foster, a thick-necked man in his 30s, stepped out, his grin a cruel caricature. The two officers moved with practiced menace, Higgins sneering, Foster folding his arms. The air crackled. Neighbors peeked from windows, their phones raised like weapons. "Hands on your head," Higgins barked, voice a whip crack. Raven stood still, eyes calm, refusing to flinch. Brutus pressed closer, his heartbeat pulsing under her palm. Foster laughed, leaning against the cruiser. "Thinks she's a big shot, huh? Not so tough now." Raven stayed silent, her Navy training kicking in sometimes. Silence was the only way to win. The crowd grew, phones blinking red, streaming the scene to the digital void. Higgins' hand hovered near his canine leash, his German shepherd, also named Brutus, waiting in the cruiser. "You deaf? Hands up," he shouted, face flushing. Foster snorted. "Let her see what a real canine can do." Higgins grinned, yanking the cruiser door open. His Brutus leaped out, muscles coiled, eyes locked on Raven. The crowd gasped. A child cried behind a fence. Raven's hands stayed at her sides, her weight shifting to the balls of her feet. She recognized Higgins' command before he spoke it, a basic police attack cue she'd drilled into countless dogs as a canine trainer. "Brutus, attack!" Higgins roared, voice thick with power. The dog lunged, teeth bared, but Raven saw the hesitation in his eyes, a dog torn between instinct and training. In a voice that sliced through the chaos, Raven unleashed her own command, sharp and authoritative, the tone she'd used in combat zones. "Brutus, down." The effect was electric. Higgins' Brutus skidded to a halt, tail lowering, and lay down at Raven's feet, whining softly, eyes fixed on her. The crowd froze. Foster's jaw dropped. Higgins' hand tightened on the leash, his face a mask of rage. "What the hell did you do?" Foster sputtered. Raven met his gaze, pride flickering in her eyes. "I gave an order. He knows who trained him." A nervous ripple passed through the onlookers. Higgins stepped closer, his taser in hand, voice a growl. "You want to show off? Let's see how you handle this." That fear flickered in his eyes, crack in his armor. The crowd held its breath, phones capturing every second. A distant siren wailed, a reminder that in Windermere things could turn ugly fast. The standoff on Alderwood Lane exploded across Windermere. Group chats buzzed, cops everywhere. "Bring your phone." The crowd swelled, housewives, teens, retirees, construction workers, phones raised, streaming to Instagram and TikTok. Within minutes the scene trended on the local app. Strangers, piling on. "She doesn't belong here." "That's what happens when you let them in." Raven stood ringed by officers, her calm a defiance against a sea of hostile faces. "Mrs. Bright," an HOA enforcer shoved forward, shrieking, "Get them out of our neighborhood." Teens jeered, one shouting, "Freeloaders, go back." Foster seized the moment, tossing a soda can at Raven's feet. "Pick it up, trash," he sneered. The crowd roared with laughter. Then, a voice cut through, a Latina teenager, Mia Torres, in a faded jean jacket. "This isn't right. She has every right to be here." The mob turned on her, hurling insults. Sergeant Colin Ramsey, a towering man with a bouncer's build, arrived, his nightstick slapping his palm. He pointed at Mia. "Want to join her? Maybe a night in a cell will teach you." Mia didn't budge. "I'm not scared. Somebody's got to say it." Ramsey's gaze shifted to Raven, his scowl a weapon. "On your knees. Hands behind your back." Raven didn't move, her stillness a predator's calm. Foster lunged, grabbing her arm. In a fluid motion, Raven twisted free, her navy reflexes sharp. The crowd gasped. Foster snarled, trying again, but Raven dodged, her stare icy. Higgins raised, a pepper spray canister inches from Raven's face. "Last warning," he spat. Raven's voice rang out, clear and lethal. "You're making a mistake, and you'll regret it." Ramsey hesitated, his eyes flicking to the cameras. He barked at his men, "Surround her." Cameras on. The officers fumbled with body cams. The scene already viral. Ramsey loomed over Raven. "Get on your knees, or we put you down." Foster surged forward, but Raven sidestepped her, training a shield. The crowd pressed closer, phones greedy for her defeat. Ramsey shoved open a squad car door, put her in. As Raven was dragged toward the car, a can bounced off the door, soda splashing her blazer. Foster grinned. "Nice shot." Amid the chaos, a few voices called for reason, drowned by as Raven caught Mia's defiant gaze through the car window, shared recognition of their fight. The mob surged, chanting justice for Windermere layered with slurs. The morning sun blazed, exposing a neighborhood forced to confront its ugliest truths. The drive to Windermere police station was a blur. Raven's wrists chafed against handcuffs, her gaze fixed on the crowd trailing the cruiser, phones raised. Brutus was gone, likely taken by animal control, the thought tightening her chest. At the station, heat radiated off the asphalt. Reporters and neighbors gathered, some with press badges, others driven by curiosity. Higgins yanked Raven out, shoving her against a squad car's hood. Foster pressed her face into the hot metal, mocking, "Used to this, right?" The crowd snickered, a chant rising, "Lock her up." A bottle shattered at her feet. Raven stared ahead, refusing to break. This wasn't justice, it was theater. a performance for a crowd that saw violence as virtue. Foster leaned in, breath sour. Smile for the camera, soldier, Higgins muttered. You black trash never learn. Phones captured it all, the videos spreading like wildfire. On Twitter, a local account posted, suspect in custody after resisting. Comments erupted, should have shot her. That's what you get. TikTok trended with remixed taunts. Raven's face memed into a caricature, but Mia's raw footage, posted unedited, tagged activists and news outlets. It gained traction, though truth struggled against the tide of hate. Foster shoved a phone in Raven's face. Anything to say? Raven looked into the lens, voice steady. You won't silence me. I will be heard. The crowd quieted, startled by her resolve, before the shouting resumed. Inside the station, Raven's mugshot cemented the narrative. Clips played on local news, framing her as the villain. Her apartment became a bunker, notifications a relentless assault. Her brother, Ellis, arrived, his face etched with worry, his laptop tracking threats. Mia showed up, shaken by her own flood of hate. They huddled in the glow of screens, each ping a reminder of the war outside. By dawn, hashtags fractured, hashtag justice for Raven, hashtag protect Windmere, hashtag back the blue. The battle had gone global, Raven's name a rallying cry and a target. She slumped on the couch, scrolling, pinning messages of support. One DM stood out. I have footage from another angle. Want me to post it? Raven replied. Yes, send it to everyone. The night was a suffocating shroud. At 2 a.m., a stone shattered Raven's window, glass spraying the floor. She shot up, Navy instincts flaring. Stay down, she hissed to Ellis and Mia. Outside, 3 hooded figures hurled another rock. Then a brick dented the door, spray-painted in red. N********. An envelope lay on the porch, stamped with a burning cross and KKK initials, filled with slurs and threats. Raven grabbed a baseball bat, stepping onto the porch. Come back, and you're done, she shouted, her voice a blade. The attackers fled, their curses fading. Mia sobbed, pleading to leave. Ellis, blood trickling from a cut, stood stunned. Raven pulled them close. I'm not running. They want me scared, but I'm still here. She drove to the police station, bat in hand, demanding to file a hate crime report. Higgins and Foster greeted her smug. Rough night, Higgins mocked. Raven held up the envelope and photos. Someone tried to hurt us. Do your job. Foster smirked, handing her a form. We'll look into it. Back home, the threats escalated. Raven's inbox overflowed with slurs, doctored images, and doxed addresses. Ellis tracked dark web forums. Mia's phone buzzed with death threats. Yet, support trickled in Navy friends. A local pastor, strangers calling Raven a hero. She leaned against Ellis, whispering, I'm not running. Windmere's Park became a battlefield. Protesters chanted justice for Raven, facing counter-protesters in Windmere Proud shirts, wielding Confederate flags. Bottles and stones flew, police in riot gear forming a barrier. Raven saw a little girl caught in the chaos, her mother unable to reach her. Without hesitation, Raven dove through the crowd, scooping the child to safety. Mia's livestream captured it. That's Raven Porter. She just saved that girl. The image went viral. Raven kneeling beside the crying child, chaos swirling. Even counter-protesters fell silent. The city began to see her not as a threat, but a leader. Under pressure, the mayor promised an investigation, the tide turning. The courthouse was a crucible. Raven's civil rights trial drew crowds, media, and national observers. Victor Dean, her lawyer, faced the police's attorney who painted Raven as a troublemaker. Victor countered with audio of Higgins' slurs, then Sherry Banks' dossier, exposing years of harassment against black families. The judge ordered an investigation, suspending the officers. At Victor's office, Sherry played a whistleblower's tape room Z, ordering attacks on troublemakers like Raven. The room shook with fury and hope. This is a conspiracy, Victor said. We'll bring it to the judge. Social media buzzed with rumors, the city's blue wall cracking. The verdict day dawned cold. The courtroom pulsed with tension. Judge Taylor's voice boomed, guilty of assault, racial discrimination, and abuse of office. Higgins, Foster, and Ramsey were stripped of their badges, banned from law enforcement. The gallery erupted, Mia hugging Raven, Ellis crying, Brutus barking. The mayor presented Raven with a Medal of Courage and named her special advisor on racial equity. Outside, cheers washed over the steps, but Raven knew the fight wasn't over. That night, a Molotov cocktail hit her porch. Ellis was attacked. Mia threatened, Yet officers Johnson and Sanchez vowed to protect her, and the community rallied. Windermere's Community Day transformed the park. Streamers replaced barricades. Laughter drowned out sirens. Raven's canine workshop drew crowds, kids vying for Brutus' attention. Neighbors who once shunned her apologized, their regret raw. "You changed this town," Bob Easton said. Raven smiled. "It's our home, all of us." On a national talk show, Raven's story moved millions. Young officers nationwide sought her guidance. Congress invited her to be honored. At Windermere Elementary, she spoke to kids, a little girl hugging her, promising friendship. A boy vowed to be a just officer, Raven pledging to help. At the Canine Festival, Raven and Brutus dazzled, earning the gold leash. A young officer gave Raven her badge, vowing to learn. The stadium roared, hope surging. Back home, a backyard feast united neighbors, even former foes. Alex Ramsey, the disgraced chief's son, apologized, seeking to change. Raven raised a glass. "I see family. Thank you for choosing courage." Under glowing lights, with Brutus at her feet, she knew justice was more than a verdict. It was a community reborn, a legacy of hope. The fight wasn't over, but Raven was ready. Her story, a beacon for a nation wrestling with its soul.